Welcome back everybody. Today we're going to be doing a little bit more work on the Beetle over here, and basically the aim of today is to sort out the whole front end. So there are a couple of issues with the front end which I'll go over in just a minute, and for that reason I want to tear down the entire of the front end basically and rebuild it, make sure it's all okay, and let me just show you what I mean, what my issues are with it, and what I plan to do, and then we'll jump into tearing this thing apart. The biggest issue probably at the minute is the fact that the steering locks, the steering stops are completely broken off at the minute, which means the steering just turns until the wheels hit the body here. So that's no good, and I definitely want to sort that out, and it's a bit of a pain to do it. I could do it with it in the car, but it's easier for me with the other things I want to look at, just to pull it out of the car. So that's the first issue. The second issue is if you look down here, there's actually a bit of a rust hole in the side of this beam, and it's a little bit worse for wear. And I do actually have, when I bought this car, it came with its own spare beam in the actual car. I'll just swap out to that other beam, and in doing that I also want to go over the ball joints that are on here, so on the arms, and basically anything rubber, because I don't know how long it's been sat there, and the rubber's probably perished and gone, so anything that's rubber I want to have a look at, and basically just get the whole front end of the car all cleaned up. So the easiest way to do that is to take it off the car, because all of this is fiberglassed on this body kit, and I really don't want to be trying to take this off, so it's easier for me just to drop the beam off and go from there. Right, so I've got everything off that I wanted to get off. I've got the wheels off, I've got those 4 bolts on the front off, and I got the steering box unbolted here. But this tie rod that goes across here, or track rod, or whatever you want to call it, also needs to come out. If you notice, I've taken the steering stabilizer out as well. That's just over here. That's just because basically there's not enough space back here to sort of like angle it out and just drop it down, which I was hoping I would be able to do, but I need to take this off as well. But the problem is I've got both the bolts out, this end and that end, and I've been hooning on it with a hammer for ages, and I cannot get it moving. So it's getting dark now. It's probably going to end up being dark by the time I've got that out, but I'll update you as and when I manage to get that out. Right, so that is now out, and all it took was a little bit more persuasion with a slightly bigger hammer and 2 people, one person hitting it from the top and one person hitting the track rod end from the bottom here, and eventually it just popped out. They're on a taper, so they're a bit tight in there. And yeah, now it's out. Drag it into the workshop, and I can work on it in peace. Got everything off without too many issues. Only issue was that both of the top mounts on both the dampers have snapped off, but that bit sort of screws onto the actual damper, this metal bit, so I'm gonna have to buy some new. They come with the rubber, so I think they're about a tenner each, so it's gonna be about 20 quid to replace both of those top ones. That was the only thing that actually broke. I've not managed to get these off the steering arm yet. These are like properly stuck in there. Decided not to take all the discs and everything off, just because it's a bit easier for me to do that whilst it's on the car, and the only reason I want to do it is so that I can clean up this and like repaint these covers on the back here, because the actual knuckles themselves are fine. It's at a point now where I can start replacing rubber ball joints and stuff. Just start replacing all these cracked rubbers, and start reassembling stuff back onto the other beam, which I need to go and grab. This has been in storage pretty much since I got the car. It was in the back and I didn't really know what I was looking at. So I just sort of put it away and didn't really look at it. But since then, I've obviously looked at how these things go together, and there's basically in here, there's some needle bearings and there's some bushes for the torsion arms, and they get quite pricey if you have to buy them new. They're about 20 quid each for the bearings and about 10 each for each bushing, and obviously there's 8 of them, so it adds up quite quickly. And fortunately this beam actually has them on it, and it was a right-hand beam as well, which is handy, but I'm not entirely sure what the previous owner's done. If we're looking at this beam from the back, so you've got obviously the steering wheels on the right-hand side and the right-hand drive car, so you've got your steering box mounts here, that's what these locators are for. You've got your steering stops on the right here, and then you've got the steering damper mount on the left. But this beam, it was like this. Obviously you've got the steering stop just here, but then the damper mount is just here, and what he's done is he's welded it over the top of the steering box mount, or the steering box like locating pins, and he's cut it off from where it used to be, which was just here. So that needs moving back over here again. And then to top it off, he's actually welded on a second set of steering stops on the left. So I don't know what he was planning to do. Maybe he was planning on like left-hand drive converting this car, or I'm not really sure. Maybe he bought this beam off of somebody and it was already like this, but I must say this welding does look like his. So this is where he's cut this beam in half, and the stock beam has like these nuts just here that basically hold in the torsion springs at a set angle, and what he's done is he's welded on, or somebody's welded on, these, which are like the same thing, but they're on a block, and this block can slide round the beam. So that basically lets you change the angle that the torsion springs are at, which lets you put a bit of preload on there. Yeah, they're good to have, but the welding's a bit crap, and I'm not entirely sure. It looks like something's not quite in line just here, so I'm gonna have to sort of have a look at that and try and straighten this all out so it's nice and in line. But yeah, that's gonna be a bit of cutting and grinding, I think. So this is what I mean about his welding being awful. You saw the amount of weld that was on here, and there was one little blob there that stuck, and over this side there was even less. So yeah, there's absolutely no penetration from his welds, which is lucky for me, but I'm glad that he didn't use this because it might have been seriously dangerous. So we're inside now because the weather's turned, and yeah, I've just pulled out these torsion springs that were in here. I had to take them out one at a time because they were stuck in. One of the reasons for that is there's actually a little bit of weld on here. So obviously these were in when it was welded, and also these were in when it was cut, because just here you can see where he's almost gone all the way through this top torsion spring with an angle grinder by the looks of it. So yeah, I'm probably going to salvage the torsion springs, just the complete spring packs, out of the old beam and put them in this one. Right, so we're time travelling forwards a little bit here, and I didn't record any of this because it's pretty boring. It was just cutting some metal down and welding it into this shape. So this jig here I've just made, and I'm going to drill some holes through here, and this is just a bolt into the stock, like factory bolt holes in here. And the whole reason I've made that is because what I'm hoping that's going to let me do, I'm not sure if it's going to work, but I'm hoping on this beam, when we cut it into 2 separate pieces again, we'll be able to bolt the 2 separate pieces, because obviously we're going to cut these out, to this jig, and then that should keep it nice and straight and allow us to line these up properly. And then when we re-weld these, we just got to be really careful that we don't like weld all the way at one side, because obviously that's probably what caused the bowing in the first place. As the weld like cools and shrinks, then it's going to pull that piece of metal in, and that's what normally causes that sort of thing. So we'll just tack it all the way around and just keep going round and round and round, keeping it nice and cool, and just weld it really carefully, and hopefully that should let us then straighten this beam up and it will be usable. But a little bit of a side note is that I'm also looking at getting a 3rd beam. So basically my friend has found one on eBay that might be more suitable for what I want to do, and it might actually save me a lot of money, because I think it's a custom made beam, or either it's heavily modified, but it's not a ball, whatever it's called, like top mounts. The top mounts aren't that style, they're the link pin style. And obviously my dampers, I broke a bit off of them taking them apart. It would cost me 20 quid to get new top mounts for both of those. Also, I'm not sure about these adjusters. I'm not sure if they're really usable because they're pretty knackered. I haven't shown you this yet, but these pins that are in here are screwed in all the way at the minute, but they're actually slightly bent and the threads on them are kind of knackered. So I need to find new like grub screws, but I don't know where on earth I'd find these. It's a bit annoying. I'm not sure if it's going to show up on camera very well, but as you turn it through your fingers and as you screw it in, you can see that this isn't straight. It's been bent at some point, so I have no idea how that's happened, but it's making me wonder whether I'm going to need new adjusters. And if I need new adjusters, then it might be better off, because they're like 40 quid for a pair of them as well. They're like 20 quid each for some reason. It might be better for me to either find my own hardware and just do it myself, which is the cheap option, or buy this new beam, which has got some of the other bits that I need as well, such as that track rod that's not bent. So it might be better off to get that beam. The only trouble is it's like in Brighton, which is like 3.5 hours away from me. So if I can figure that out, I might go for that. But I'm just gonna crack on with this beam anyway, because if I can sort this beam out and get it so it's usable, then obviously I can sell it if I don't end up using it, or I can just use it in the meantime if I don't end up getting that other beam. So I bought it and it's now here. So Adam went and picked this up for me. So big thanks to him for that. And we've been looking over it and it's in way better condition than anything that I had. So we're definitely going to use this. Another thing we've noticed whilst we were looking over it is that I've actually got dropped spindles. So I never had anything to compare these to and I didn't quite realise. So we're definitely going to use my spindles and my discs and stuff.
Maybe even on the coast, disguised in regalia, and making the most of the most of a maybe you're in Australia, maybe even on the coast, disguised in regalia, and making the most of the most of a
So we went ahead and changed all the boots on this beam. Some of them were split, so we thought we'd just change them all because I already had them. And we put the hubs on now, so that's all good to go. The only other thing that we're looking at now is the steering box and how that's going to mount. So I've got 3 different ones to choose from. 2 came with the car and 1 came with the beam. And basically the bottom side of the steering box is meant to locate in like these 2 tabs. And it doesn't have that on this beam. So there's a little spot of weld here that's in the wrong place. It needs to be more like down here. And it's not like meant to locate in the side or anything, so we're just going to grind that off and then we'll try and measure out and weld something on here so that these can locate in the right place. And also this is missing the top mount for the steering damper, so I'll have to fabricate something up and weld one on there as well. So that is the mounts all tacked up now. So we've got the steering box mount over here where this sort of locates on on these pins, and we've got the steering damper mount. This is just bent up out of a bit of 3mm by 35mm wide steel flat, and copied all the positions and stuff over from here. Only tacked them up for now because obviously copying from a round bit of tube is tricky to get exactly right, so I think it's close enough, but I'm going to offer it up to the car now and basically just check that all this is in the right place, and if it is, then I can come back around and weld everything up fully. It looks like I managed to do a pretty good job of lining all this stuff up, so this bracket's in exactly the right place and the steering box is being held in the absolute perfect position. So yeah, I can take this off now and finish up that welding. That stupid dance that I just did was actually a bit of spatter landing on my foot, going in my shoe, burning a hole in my sock, and then burning a chunk of my foot. That really, really hurt. So now that the beam is all painted and drying, I'm going to put a bit of attention into the things in the front end of the car that's just a bit easy to get at when the beam isn't in here. So that's things like moving these brackets here and painting this up. I'm just going to give it a coat of paint as well, just to stop it going rusty. It's got some rust converter on it at the minute, but that's as far as I went, so just going to paint some of that and yeah, just clean it up and make it a little bit tidier, and then I can go ahead and throw the beam on. Got the front end all back together now, and now that I've moved those brackets over, I've got the suspension fully extended and the car, like the steering, on full lock, and there's plenty of slack on this brake line here, so I'm happy to put the clips in, connect everything up, and then we can fill the system with brake fluid, bleed it, and then see if we need to refurbish any of the brake drums or the disc brakes. that is all of the brakes completely bled. I've got a really nice firm pedal feel now, and I seem to have looked out on that one. So that is the whole brake system now completed, the whole front end all completed, steering, everything. So that's great. I think the next thing I'm probably going to do is put the engine in the back and move the car around to the front so we can start doing some of the interior stuff like mounting up the seats, doing the seat belts, and then it's pretty much road legal. Obviously I've got to go back over all of this at some point and tidy it all up, paint it all, make it look nice, but I'm not going to do that just yet because I'm probably going to end up getting a one-piece fiberglass front end and chopping all this off. Right, so it's been the weekend and I thought I'd come back out here and just check that there's no leaks anywhere, and unfortunately it looks like all of our rear circuit has drained down, and it really confused me at first because there weren't any leaks coming out of the rear of the brakes. There's no leaks out the front, which isn't good, but yeah, no leaks coming out the rear. And then I spotted a puddle under the car down here, back there. There's like a dark patch. I was looking around thinking maybe it was this old pipe here that's maybe split, or this fitting here might be leaking. But no, it looks like it's coming out down here. There's like a damp patch around the master cylinder here, so it looks like the seal's gone in the back of the master cylinder. So I'll have to just get a seal kit and hopefully I can fix that. But that does mean that I'm going to have to tear all this apart again, which is kind of annoying because it means I'm going to have to drain down the front circuit and bleed everything all over again. But it's not a problem, it's not the end of the world, it could be worse. And yeah, then hopefully there won't be any more leaks and it should just be good to go. I've got the master cylinder off now and completely disassembled it, and I've just gone through and cleaned up everything. It was really dirty. There was like a lot of gravel and grime and stuff in there. It was not nice, but that's all gone now. It's all nice and clean. And I think this is the seal. This sits basically here, and I think this is the seal that must be responsible for our leak. So this is the only seal that's sort of behind this point, and it's the seal that stops the fluid from leaking out the back here, and obviously this is where the leak was coming from. So I think that's the seal that's responsible for it, but looking at it, it's all in good shape, to be honest. There's nothing really wrong with it. There's no big gashes or gouges or anything in it. So I'm kind of hoping that it's just that it was really dirty and it wasn't making a good seal sort of around the inside of here, because there was a lot of dirt in here. So I'm going to throw it back together and just give it a go. But worst case, if this still doesn't work, I'll have to try and find another one of these seals or some sort of seal kit or something to repair it with, or worst case, buy a new one of these. No such luck, unfortunately. It's still leaking. I just poured some fluid in the top here, and yeah, it's just leaking straight out the back there. So it is going to be a case that I either need to find the right seal for it or a new master cylinder. So I'll get straight on that, and then we can just whack that back in the car. 25 quid later, and we have a whole new master cylinder directly from Germany. So it turned out to be only about a £5 or more to get the whole new master cylinder versus just getting the seals to repair this. So that's why I went down that route. So just got to stick in. This is the brake light switch. Got to stick that in, and then we can stick this back in the car. First you want to initiate and accelerate back up, or oh no, my show. Adam went and picked this up for me and brought it up, which is big thanks.
But we're going for you, you see.